Hello and welcome to In Stitches. This machine here was kindly donated to me by a customer who said, it's fine if I donate it in turn to a charity shop. I just thought today that we'd go through and assess the machine. It's a Singer 427. I can see already that it's actually missing the throat plate, but I think I've probably got another one lying around. I might be able to put on there if the machine's, in working condition. So really I just want to see whether the machine's good enough to donate, whether it's actually usable. But let's do a couple of checks. I'll take you through what I do to check these machines out. This is not a full restoration. I also don't fully service the machines before they are donated. They really only got to the point where I remove all the major sort of grubby lint balls and things like that, but I don't go super full on with cleaning the machines to full servicing standard, but at least just get the machine to working condition. Let's have a look. I think first of all it's probably a good idea just to have a look inside the foot controller. It would be remiss of me to not mention this, but just make sure that before you go opening anything up on the foot controller or on the side of the machine that you've got the machine unplugged. If you don't feel comfortable about it, don't go near it. Just get your maybe a local electrician or a sewing machine mechanic to do this part for you. But pretty much I just want to have a quick look inside the foot controller here to make sure that we don't have any imminent sort of issues with capacitors. Sometimes it's difficult to tell, but this is the first thing, or one of the first things that I do. So just the 4 screws on the bottom there, and should be able to just push that up there. Remove. This should just come away. Sometimes they stick on the corners to give them some persuasion. The capacitor's actually been removed from this one. Normally the capacitor would go between these two terminals here, and don't quote me 100%, but I'm pretty sure that it's a 0.1 microfarad X2 class capacitor. In our country it's 240 volt. You want to check the supply voltage of your local supply. So if you're in North America, more than likely it's 110 volt. As I say, don't quote me, but you really want to check that first before you go ahead and replace any components in there. You can run the machine without a capacitor. It doesn't cause any issues as far as the workings of the machine goes. You'll notice in here that it's a little bit dusty and whatnot. Normally if I'm fully servicing a machine for a customer, I would fully clean it out. I don't see that as a huge problem. If you wanted to, you could just give it a quick brush out, with a brush there. Blow it out with an air compressor if you've got an air compressor, but that's pretty good there. We'll just put it back together. By rights, the capacitor should be replaced in there, but that's really something that, I'll mention to the charity shop, and there will be a note to go with the machine to say that generally should really be done. And, the new owner can choose to get that done if they want to. But we'll just get that back in. Get that screwed back up there. Part number is 102628-009. Made in Great Britain. Very nice. This is a 250, actually it's a multi-voltage 150 to 250 volts. 0.35 amps, so yeah, that's good. Excuse any background noise too, by the way. You might hear birds and aircraft and vehicles. It's quite warm here today, so I've got the windows open. The other thing to check before you go plugging a machine in is check for bare wires. Check your insulation. Do that before you plug the machine in. Don't do it while you're plugged in. And if you come across any nicks or any issues with the insulation, take it to your electrician or sewing machine mechanic and they'll sort it out for you. But that looks pretty good. Make sure the plug is in good condition. They probably look quite different to what you're used to unless you live in New Zealand or Australia. That's our 3-pin plug. These machines are not earth, they're double insulated, so the earth pin is not connected. The phase, you've got phase and neutral here, so the polarized plugs here. Just one more thing to think about too before you plug a machine in is generally there will be a capacitor possibly in the motor or one close by and behind this cover. You can take the cover off. Normally there's 2 screws, this one down here is missing. 2 screws here. You can have a look at it. Actually, I don't think there is one easily accessible here. We might be able to see it from the bottom. More than likely the capacitor is actually right in the motor there. If that's the case, I mean, what you've got to bear in mind is that these machines don't have a lot of value to them. I mean, if it's a family heirloom or something like that, or you really want to fix the machine up, I would probably have a look for that capacitor, and we'll see if we can see it. If I get the bottom off here, we'll see if we can see it. But you'd probably have to take the motor out to get to the capacitor. Sometimes they can be quite difficult to change. Generally, just an inspection is probably okay. It depends on the type of capacitor, but if it's one of those reefer capacitors, I think I would just arbitrarily change it, just as a matter of course. Because if it's one of the reefer ones, you're pretty well guaranteed it's going to blow. At this stage, I'd probably just check the motor, bearing in mind that I'm running this with the side cover off, so just be aware if you do this that it's live components in there. So just to be 100% safe, it's probably a good idea to put the side cover back on, just in case. I mean, if you've got kids around or pets or something like that, just to be 100% safe. Okay, let's plug it in. Oh, looks good. Okay, motor's good. I think the next thing to do would be to remove the lid. We'll have a wee look in the top there. Some machines have plastic gears. That screw's missing there. Someone's just taped it along here. So this particular model, it has plastic gear here and another plastic one it meshes with there. So this is your horizontal top shaft here. Then you've got your vertical shaft. It goes down and drives the lower workings, and that's what this gear does, is it drives that vertical shaft down to drive the workings. The cam stack gear on this one is metal. 2 metal gears. You've got your metal worm gear just here, and you've got a metal gear that drives that one there. So that's good. That's your zigzag motion there. This here going back and forward. It's got a zigzag cam in it. You can see here that we've got a zigzag pattern cam in there at the moment. Not easily changed, I would say, by the look of that. It's metal clipped in there. So some models have a facility to undo this, a little clamp here, and swap out the cams. Have a look down this end here. Just a thumb screw to get the faceplate off there. And it's looking pretty clean in there. But if I was doing a full service, as I said before, I'd be giving that a good blowout in there. Just get you a close look down here. That needle is as bent as anything. Press a foot we can remove just to get that out of the way. The bobbin case can come out quite easily. I actually showed this in the last video. Had quite a similar machine on the bench. Just lift this little latch here and push it to the right like that, and then you just push your bobbin case to the right and it lifts out nicely like that. I can see a problem. So if you turn your machine like this, I'm just turning the hand wheel, the hook isn't turning. That is a broken gear. I would put this machine in the not worth repairing category unless it had sentimental value or something like that. Or, you know, if I had a customer come to me and say, this was my grandma's machine and, you know, I really want it fixed up. I do that sort of thing all the time. And so let's just have a quick look though at what's going on here. See where it's actually failed. The parts are available. It's not a huge job. It's not overly time consuming. These are quite nice in that they're belt driven at the bottom here. So this is the bottom of that vertical shaft I talked about, which gets driven by the top shaft. And that drives the hook here over this side. And you can see that this is turning. The whole top shaft, the whole vertical shaft is turning. This job is a little bit more difficult. I'll do my best to try and keep this visible for you. But you can see right down in here that if I turn the top shaft here, turning the hand wheel, you'll see that that black gear down there that I've got the torch shining on there isn't turning. It's missing a few teeth. In fact, you can see in between these teeth the black teeth. So that's never a good sign. So yeah, there's a tooth sitting right there. Right there. And that gear is replaceable. I mean, it's what you've got to do basically is loosen the screws that hold that gear onto that vertical shaft and drop the vertical shaft down, and then put another brand new gear in there and you know, get the vertical shaft back up into the gear, and then tighten up the grub screws, set the timing and things like that. So yeah, it's a bit of work, you know, and as I say, I wouldn't bother doing it unless it was a machine that had sentimental value. So pretty much that's about it, I think, for unfortunately for this. Generally what I'll do with a machine like this is I will pull out like useful parts. The bits that I would save, I mean the handy bits like the bobbin case, quite handy. You know, presser foot, the throat plate if it had one, the slide plate, or slide plate here, maybe even the spring down here, just one screw, take that off. If we loosen the screw here, and yeah, this is not right. There's actually a bit missing here as well. But you know, some of these tension parts could be quite handy. So the little tension release, yeah, the part that's missing is the part that normally breaks. So it's probably already been harvested off this machine, I would say. You could salvage, you know, parts of the tensioner, the check spring there, things like that, I guess. As say, the part that I really wanted has been harvested already off this. Yeah, I mean little bits like the tension discs, they generally don't wear out. But that, you know, save that. It's quite handy to have in your spares box if you're doing a bit of this sort of thing. Even that little nut there, pretty handy. I'd be just about tempted to keep all of the tension parts. Sometimes I see a machine that this here might be missing. You know, this screw here. I don't know why. I guess someone potentially could have unscrewed it, you know, and lost it. I don't know. That little screw and washer there. Yeah, could be handy. These bits, I've seen those break. You know, it's not a big pile of parts. You know, you might want to keep screws, things like that. You know, these screws here, I mean, there was one missing from here, so, you know, having a spare screw could be handy. These here, they just pull out. They're little plastic knock-in spool holders with the little felt. The rest of that, you know, I mean, you could keep the lid if you wanted to, spare, but that's a bit too sort of bulky for my liking to store. I've probably got a lot of these machines that I could harvest bits off anyway. So that's what I would do, is just strip off the bits that I want. The nice thing about these machines is that they're mainly steel, and so metal recyclers will accept them, so that's quite handy. You could actually save the likes of the needle clamp, things like that. This here, that little thread guide there, and now the actual needle clamp will come off just like that. You know, handy little bits. There's also a little part in here that sometimes gets lost. I think what happens is people take them to bits and then they don't realise that there's a little part in here and it gets lost. So, you know, handy to have little bits and pieces like that. There's that screw there for the presser foot. Maybe even the bobbin winder tensioner, you know, that could get bent, I suppose. You could actually save the stop motion knob here and its little screw. Sometimes they get lost. These parts here, that one, those bits. Motor belt, that's probably quite a good thing to save. Screw, motor belt, just spin that off. Motor belt, it's got the part number there, still available, but that actually looks pretty good. Hand wheel, don't know, they're pretty solid. Sometimes I think that's plastic, it's like a really hard plastic, sometimes that breaks. The motor, I mean, if you want to get really serious, you could just strip the whole machine. I don't really see the point in doing that, because you're probably best off just, if you're going to do that, keep everything, you might as well just keep the whole machine intact and grab what you need at the time. I was just trying to see if I can spot the capacitor in that motor, but I think it could well be tucked in behind in there. So, you know, to be 100% sure, I'd have to pull that motor out. I can't see one there, so I'd be sort of tempted just to leave it. There's probably not a lot in here that you could save. I mean, if the little rubber feet here are in good condition, that could be worth saving. I mean, these are well and truly gone. Yeah, these feet are not overly cheap to replace. They're brand new ones are not cheap. But, you know, these are well past it. So not worth saving, but, you know, possibly even these screws here. Sometimes these screws get sort of flattened off where people have just, you know, sat them on concrete and the little feet have disappeared and it's been sitting on concrete and it damages the screw head. You could save those. I mean, that's pretty much, you know, what I would pull off it. You could take more, you could take less, depending on what you want to get. Yeah, so that's a bit unfortunate, that gear's gone. This will end up in metal recycle. It seems a bit of a shame, but unfortunately I just don't have the room to store a whole heap of broken machines, and I don't really want to end up like a car wrecking yard for sewing machine parts, you know. sewing machine wrecking business. There's just nothing in it, and there's a lot of storage required, and yeah, it gets quite expensive. So I know, sorry, it's probably not an overly satisfactory ending, but it's just the nature of what I do in a way. You know, if I'm donating a machine, I need to do this, I need to go through this process. The other thing I would keep is definitely keep the foot controller and the power cable. Really handy. Especially, you know, the matching, you can match it up with another machine that needs a brown controller. Really nice. Yeah, so yeah, thanks very much for watching. I hope you've found it helpful, you know, and interesting. As I say, it's part of the job, and you win some, you lose some. So yeah, thank you very much to my patrons for your support on Patreon, and thank you very much for watching, and we'll catch you in the next one.